Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Riya Gandhi and I'm here to help you for your UGC NET English exam preparation. In this YouTube channel, I'm sharing certain essential tips and strategies and covering some of the most important concepts and topics related to UGC NET English Literature, which will make your journey to crack UGC NET English exam much easier. Friends, when it comes to UGC NET English exam, there are some of the most important literary figures that you need to focus upon the most. These literary figures include Shakespeare, T.S. Eliot, John Milton, and of course, Geoffrey Chaucer. Friends, in the previous video, we have discussed the life of Geoffrey Chaucer, some of his lesser known but extremely important works from UGC NET point of view. If you haven't checked it out yet, please check it out right now because we have covered some of the most interesting details about Geoffrey Chaucer, which are definitely important from UGC NET point of view, but also important in terms of the evolution and development of English as a language and English literature. In today's video, we will be discussing Geoffrey Chaucer's masterpiece, his magnum opus, The Canterbury Tales, and understand why is it so important in the history of English literature and definitely from UGC NET point of view. We will first begin the discussion by understanding the socio-political context in which Chaucer wrote and what motivated him to write the Canterbury Tales in the first place. Secondly, we will focus a bit upon the General Prologue and why is it so significant in English literature. And then finally, we will discuss the key characters, the key tales in the Canterbury Tales, which are extremely important from UGC NET point of view. By the end of this video, you will not only gain a comprehensive understanding of the socio-political context in which Chaucer wrote and what motivated him to write the Canterbury Tales, but you will also understand that which are the 5 most important Canterbury Tales that you should know before you appear for your UGC NET English exam. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do it right now so that you won't miss any videos on such important literary figures that I will be covering in the future. Now, let us first understand the time in which Chaucer was writing. Let us first understand the socio-political context in which Chaucer wrote, especially the Canterbury Tales. Now, this was the time that England was facing a lot of changes. It faced a lot of turbulences on its way. For instance, the first thing that it had to go through was the 100 Years' War that was going on between France and England. The second thing was that England was vulnerable to bubonic plague, which killed thousands and thousands of people in 1348. And that event is recorded as Black Death in the history of English literature. And finally, the event that shaped the literature of the time, especially Chaucer's literature, was the Peasant Revolt or Peasants' Rebellion in 1381. When we are talking about the Peasants' Revolt led by Wat Tyler, one thing that you should remember that it was actually a response against the rising economic discontent among people during that point of time. It was a reaction against the unfair taxes levied on them, and it was unfairly crushed by King Richard II. All they demanded was better living conditions. They wanted to live a healthy lifestyle and they wanted more economic satisfaction. Because of this peasants' revolt, what happened was that there was a rise of a new middle class. Before this rise of a new middle class, England was traditionally divided into 3 estates in terms of nobility, church, and the peasants. The church were basically a group of people who prayed and they did not work for a living. The nobility, they sort of believed in the courtly life and the courtliness of living. And finally, you had the peasants, that was the remaining class of the society. Because of the peasants' rebellion, you see this rise and emergence in the new middle class that is, the educated workers like merchants, lawyers, clerks. Chaucer himself was a part of this new middle class. So what you see is that in the Canterbury Tales, Chaucer has tried to depict and even satirize this particular traditional society. So you will see a lot of characters belonging from the so-called higher and elite classes of society like nobility and church. They are often mocked and satirized. That is why the Canterbury Tales is also known as the estate's satire. One of the distinctive characteristics of the Canterbury Tales is the humor. The way Chaucer has dealt with every character, the way he has characterized every pilgrim, and the way he has narrated their tales is very interesting to read upon. So when we are talking about the Canterbury Tales, it basically talks about 31 pilgrims traveling to the shrine of Thomas Becket at Canterbury Cathedral. The story starts with when the group of 29 pilgrims visit the Tabard Inn for some rest. This is when the narrator of the Canterbury Tales, which is very interesting to note, is Chaucer himself, meets these 29 pilgrims. And that's when the host, whose name is Harry Bailey, chips in a very interesting idea. He says, guys, why don't we do one thing? Why don't we all go together to the shrine of Thomas Becket? And to make our journey more interesting, why don't we do something? And that is, every pilgrim will tell 2 tales on their way to the shrine and 2 tales while we are coming back. So this will make our journey more interesting and more fun. So based upon that, what will happen is that every pilgrim will tell 4 tales each. And then he said that, but I won't say any tale. You guys tell your tales, but I won't say any tale. And he wanted these tales to be from the ancient past. The pilgrims should not invent any stories or should not invent their own tales. Rather, they should tell the tales from the ancient past. Now, with this kind of setup, 30 pilgrims would narrate 4 tales each. So in total, we should have 120 tales. But we know that in the Canterbury Tales, there are only total 24 tales. Why is that the case? That is because Chaucer did want to write 120 tales, but he only managed to write 24 tales since he died for some unknown reason. Now, how come we have 24 tales? We have 24 tales because Chaucer recorded or wrote 1 tale each of 23 pilgrims. Now, if he has recorded 1 tale each of 23 pilgrims, we should have 23 tales, but we have 24 tales. Where did this 1 extra tale come from? So basically, Chaucer narrated 2 tales. Why? Because initially, when he was narrating the tale of Sir Topaz, it was a very humorous, light-hearted, fun story. But then we have the host, Harry Bailey, who said that, why are you saying such a humorous tale? You should come up with a more serious tale. And so we have Chaucer coming up with a more serious tale, and that is the Tale of Melibea. Friends, one thing that you should remember about the Tale of Melibea is that it is a serious prose tale. In Canterbury Tales, there are 2 prose tales only. The one is the Tale of Melibea by Chaucer, and the second is the Parson's Tale, which is the last tale. The remaining are basically the verse tales. Chaucer borrowed this concept of one frame narrative and different tales from Boccaccio's Decameron, which basically was similar to this, that there were 10 ladies and gentlemen who were escaping the plague, and they were on the Italian countryside. And to make their journey more interesting, they told 10 stories to each other. Now that we have a basic understanding of the socio-political context in which Chaucer wrote, and we also know the number of tales and how do they go about, it's time to dive deep into understanding the prologue of the Canterbury Tales. When we are talking about the prologue, it is considered to be a masterpiece of characterization. There is nothing in the history of English literature which could even touch or resemble the significance of the prologue. It begins with the most famous lines in English literature: when that April with his showers suit, the drought of March hath pierced to the root. With a vivid description of nature, we realize that it is a springtime. This is generally the time that a lot of pilgrims, they gather together and they visit such religious sites. At the same time, when we are talking about the prologue, what happens in it is that when the group of 29 pilgrims visit the Tabardin for some rest, they meet Chaucer the narrator. So, the narrator, who is Chaucer himself, is describing each and every pilgrim. It is not just a description of the characteristics of such pilgrims. It is more than that. These pilgrims, they come from different walks of life, and they are the microcosmic representations of these three estates. So, Chaucer, being the son of a wine merchant and a clerk to the king, was belonging from this new middle class. And so, he has tried to parade the entire traditional society during that point of time, and no one has escaped his humor. The prologue begins with the description of the knight, who is one of the pilgrims. The knight is considered to be belonging from the highest order in the social standing. In fact, he is often associated with chivalry, honor, glory, and even courtesy. But based upon the description provided by Chaucer of the knight, he is considered to have a very modest demeanor, and that we can capture through the clothes that he is wearing. He is wearing a very stained cloth, a very coarse tunic. In fact, he is still wearing a military padded coat, which gives us the picture that he has just come from a voyage. In fact, Chaucer goes so far as to say that no Christian man oft of his degree, which means that the wars that he has not fought for glory. In fact, he has fought for the love of Christ. And that is why one of the most important tales in the Canterbury Tales from UGC NET point of view is the Knight's Tale. Since he is often associated with chivalry and honor, he tells the tale of high romance of the two royal cousins, Palamon and Arcite, for the love of Emily, who is the sister to the Queen of Hippolyta, the wife of Duke Theseus of Athens. The next important character and tale that you should know from UGC NET point of view, especially in the Canterbury Tales, is the wife of Bath's tale. Now, when we are talking about the wife of Bath, we realize, based upon Chaucer's description, that she has traveled all over the world, which means that she has seen the world, at the same time she knows the ways of the world. But why is this character called as the wife of Bath? Possibly because of two reasons. First, that she was married to 5 husbands, which gives her the stereotypical label of the wife. Second, we also realize that Bath during the Middle Ages was considered to be one of the most popular cloth making towns in England, which provides us the connection between Bath and her, that is the wife of Bath's character, being as a seamstress and wearing stylish garments. We also realize, based upon Chaucer's description, that she's wearing very stylish garments. She's adorned with heavy clothing. She wears stocking in fine scarlet color. She's wearing soft leather boots, which gives us the picture that she's very wealthy and well-to-do. At the same time, based upon Chaucer's description, we also realize the relationship between her and her 5 husbands. And that is that in that particular relationship, she enjoys certain kind of independence. She enjoys that power, that autonomy. How? She knows how to gain control over her husbands, and she does that by using her body, which is a very revolutionary topic at the same time, and to know that Chaucer has depicted this particular female character in such a way is quite a bold move. Having had the basic idea of the wife of Bath's character, let's understand the tale told by her in the Canterbury Tales. So, the tale itself is also very similar to her personality as a modernist woman or a feminist that we might call her to be today. So, she tells the tale of one of the knights in the court of King Arthur who commits the grave crime of raping a young maiden. As a punishment, the queen does not sentence him to death. Instead, she tells him to go on a quest for 1 year and a day to find out what women truly desire the most. If he's not able to find that out, then he will be sentenced to death. Now, after a year of searching and searching, the knight comes across a very old, ugly woman and asks her the question. And the old ugly woman says that the women desire sovereignty the most. They desire independence. They desire the freedom of choice in their life the most. And the knight tells the same answer to the queen, and his life is spared. But there is a twist in the plot. The old ugly woman says that in return of this answer, you have to marry me. The knight reluctantly agrees. And on their wedding night, the old ugly woman provides another choice to him. He says that you have a choice. Either you choose that I stay an old ugly woman, but I will be very faithful and very loyal to you, or I'll transform myself into a beautiful young woman, but I will be potentially unfaithful to you. What do you choose? And then the knight, to her surprise, says, the choice is yours. Whatever you choose to be, and I'll be happy. Knowing that the knight has learned his lesson, the woman was extremely happy and she transformed herself into this beautiful young faithful maiden, and they lived their lives happily ever after. The third important character and tale that you should know from UGC NET point of view in the Canterbury Tales is the monk's tale. When we are talking about the characteristics of the monk, we are told that he is a very gluttonous man, a bald and a fat man who likes to have good food, good wine, and likes to be well fed. This gives us the picture that he is one of those people who were well fed during the time when a lot of people were starving. This also showcases and takes us back to the point that actually Chaucer was trying to satirize the three major estates prevalent in the traditional England society. These three estates, as I've mentioned previously as well, were the church, nobility, and the peasantry. And in this depiction of specifically the monk, he was trying to satirize the church. Talking about the tale recounted by the monk to other pilgrims in the Canterbury Tales, we get an idea that he narrated a series of 17 stories about people who were really virtuous at some point of time in their life, but they had to suffer significant downfall because of maybe fate, misfortune, or pride. Now, this series of 17 stories was related to Lucifer, Adam, Hercules, King Nero, and other such people who had to suffer that downfall maybe because of pride or one such particular fault of theirs. This concept is quite similar to Aristotle's concept of peripeteia that he talked about in Poetics, which also means a sudden reversal of fortune. Another thing that you should remember about the monk's tale is that when the monk was recounting his stories, he said that I have more than 100 stories like these which talk about the sudden reversal of fortune in someone's life who was actually very virtuous. But we need to be thankful to the knight because he stopped the monk in between and he said that, you know, monk, we don't want any more of your sad stories. We don't want to hear any more of your sad stories. We want to listen to something very light-hearted and fun. And that is why the monk's tale has only 17 stories. Now, when the knight stops the monk saying that we don't want to hear any more of your stories, the host asks the nun's priest to tell them a particular tale. Now, who is the nun's priest? This character is a very interesting character but is a minor one. We are only introduced to this character through the tale that he is telling and not through any detailed description. So what is this tale? So the nun's priest's tale is a beast fable wherein you have anthropomorphized animals. Now, what are anthropomorphized animals? Anthropomorphized animals in a fable are basically the ones who are attributed human qualities like walking, talking, singing, and more. In the nun's priest's tale, there are various characters. You have an elderly woman who is living in a farm with her 2 daughters. You also have a sheep, a cow, and a conceited rooster named Chanticleer. So, the nun's priest's tale is basically the story about a Chanticleer and the fox. So, the rooster Chanticleer has a dream one day that a fox will come to eat him up. And the fox does approach Chanticleer one day and sort of flatters him up and says that, you know, you really sing well. Why don't you sing with your eyes closed? And the rooster believes and he starts singing with his eyes closed, and the fox was just waiting for that moment. The moment he closes his eyes, the fox eats him up and runs away. While he is running away, Chanticleer, who is present within the fox, sort of tricks the fox into boasting about himself. Tells him that, you know, you should boast about yourself. You should speak good about yourself. And the moment fox opens his mouth, Chanticleer runs away. The moral lesson of this story was that you should never trust your flatterers. The nun's priest's tale serves to be a very light-hearted fable, or you can say a light-hearted tale in comparison to what the monk was talking about. The last and the most important tale that you should know from UGC NET point of view is the Prioress's tale. When we are talking about the Prioress, she is the second female storyteller in the Canterbury tales, the first one being the wife of Bath. The full name of the Prioress is Madame Eglantine. When we are talking about the Prioress, based upon Chaucer's description, we realize that she focuses a lot more upon courtly manners and courtly etiquettes. There is no mention of her religious duties. At the same time, she focuses a lot more upon the worldliness and worldly love and not upon divine love, which is expected from a nun. At the same time, she wears a golden brooch which says, love conquers all. Talking about the Prioress's tale, it is often considered to be very anti-Semitic by the critics. It is a story of a young Christian boy who continuously sings the hymn of Virgin Mary to praise her. Angered by his devotion, a group of Jews, they try to abduct him and kill him. Despite being dead, the boy miraculously continues to sing the hymn, which is O Alma Redemptoris, to Virgin Mary. When his mother and other Christians find him, he says that Virgin Mary put a magic grain on his tongue which helped him to sing even after being dead. The Jews are finally executed and the boy is buried as a martyr. Now, these were the 5 most important characters and tales that you should go through before you appear for your UGC NET English exam. At the same time, when we are talking about the Canterbury Tales, you should also read the General Prologue. You can find its modern English version very easily on the internet. And trust me, when you will go through it, you will find it interesting. At the same time, when you are talking about the Canterbury Tales, apart from these tales, you should also go through the Miller's Tale, the Pardoner's Tale, the Merchant's Tale, the Franklin's Tale, and the Summoner's Tale, who has like a fire red face with pimples on his face. If you want to go through these tales in more detail and you want to master Geoffrey Chaucer for your UGC NET English exam, don't worry, I've got you covered. I am taking live UGC NET English exam classes wherein I am explaining every topic and concept related to the history of British English literature and literary criticism in a very detailed and simplified manner. At the same time, I am also sharing certain essential tips and strategies which help me crack UGC NET English exam in the first attempt itself. Since these are live one-on-one classes, I am also providing personalized guidance tailored to your needs and requirements, which will make your journey to clear UGC NET exam in a much easier manner. If you want to know more about the courses I offer, the sessions I take, and the notes I provide, feel free to check out my TopMate page. It's topmate.io/Riya Gandhi. I've shared the link in the description box below, so don't forget to check it out. Before we end this video on Geoffrey Chaucer's The Canterbury Tales, I would like to add one more interesting thing that not a lot of people have said about the Canterbury Tales. And that is that Chaucer did not end his collection with just these 24 tales. In fact, the final section of the Canterbury Tales is called as Retractions, which is basically an apology that he asks from the readers as well as from God. He says that whatever worldly vanities or vulgar or unworthy things that he has mentioned in this collection, he asks for absolution for his sins. He asks for forgiveness for the same. That's it for today's video, folks. I hope you now have a comprehensive understanding of the Canterbury Tales and the most important characters that you should learn before you appear for your UGC NET English examination. With Chaucer writing the Canterbury Tales, he became one of the first middle-aged writers to introduce the note of modernity in English literature. Before his arrival on the scene, the literature was pretty medieval, with stories only talking about the heroes and the ancient legends and allegorical romances. So you see why he is called as the father of English literature? If you found this video informative and helpful, please like it and share it with other UGC NET English aspirants. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any videos that I will be uploading on such important literary figures in the future. If you want to know more about my one-on-one coaching classes on UGC NET English exam preparation, feel free to check out my TopMate page. It's topmate.io/Riya Gandhi. I've shared the link in the description box below, so don't forget to check it out. Thank you so much for watching till the end, guys. I'll see you in the next one.